Hello, and welcome to the first Kareem's Dreams stream.
Yes.
Since before the beta.
Yeah.
We were just chatting when you made the fortress.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Yeah.
And you're gonna be jamming around in the city theme.
Yes. Architectural musings. Kind of thing. Yeah.
I'm gonna leave you to it.
Cool.
So you can just get straight in because we know that
Brilliant.
people want to see stuff, do stuff. So we'll get you ready.
Thank you, Tom.
Cool.
Thank you.
And I will be sat over there.
Cool. Well, the thing I was thinking about what to do today, and basically in design and modular design and city design and whether you're inside a space or seeing a big one, there is need for modules, and I was starting to build a set of assets that are handy to have, nice floors and walls and things like that can be useful, because we could spend the whole time of a stream just doing a nice textured floor, or we can do a lot more than that, but won't be able to delve into the almost sculpture detail of making high-res stuff. So I thought, I was speaking with Tom about that. In the future, I'm going to do a cool. Yeah, I have a bunch of reference I'm going to talk about in a bit. But so in the future, when I make that collection and then we start using them to build interiors and spaces, I will go through the techniques used to make them in another time. But this time we'll talk more about city and architectural design in general. I'll still, most of the percentage of the time will be about dream and dream techniques, but actually the thing I really want to try to do as well is squeeze in some actual general universal design concepts. First concept, as we always said, and I think that's a recurring one, is dropping the character or the biped very early on in the design. That is the most universally important choice to make in the beginning. In architecture or in game architecture, it's still a character that we're serving most of the time. There are some games that are not character oriented, and more about Tetris or something. But in general, when we build spaces, they are built for a proportion, for a character to inhabit. As soon as we have that, we can start serving it. The second concept that is handy to have early in our design is a bunch of color schemes. A color scheme that we will use in our creation today. So for example, I was looking at a lot of my references and I put together some sheets here to just look at and remember some concepts I want to talk about. So in general, in a space, you might need 3 colors or 4 colors to play with. Because we'll cover a bunch of concepts today, we'll allow ourselves to go further. But let's say I'm going to make a modular a space now, and I will have one of my colors will be a mix of grays, just boring grays. They're actually very good grays to have in a space, because you can use them a lot and to cover a big span of the environment. If you have like a strong sort of purple or green or something, it's nice, but in smaller quantities. So I'm just going to do a collection here. Here's a color tumble of tile to make a tiled floor. And then I will do, again, go and pick. And this, I think we went through that once. If I tumble the color tumble, it changes my color life. But if I leave it static, interestingly, every time I do a tile, it will just pick a slightly different point. I'm gonna go to the single stamp here. So every time I do a tile, it will change it to a different variety of this color. So at least now we get, even though it's gray, but we're getting different tones of gray. So we can do a quite a nice floor pattern, tile pattern from that. So every time I sort of do one, we get a different, and I picked reasonably near colors so it won't be too patchy. So there you go. I did a patch of colors here, and then I can, if you like, make a groove. I want to make a groove for the tiles. So I zoom in, and in the zoom features, I can turn on, or in the grid features, I can turn on this relative feature here. So it makes my grid tiling smaller as I zoom in, so I don't have to go and manually make it. So if I want to make, for example, a groove, grooves are very, very cool in architectural modules, just to even emphasize the marks. So again, I just do this groove and then go in here and extend it. Let's just go a bit deeper and then pick that here and go and extend it like that. See, and you'll see the effect that this sort of thing will do in a second when I start to repeat using this module. So I just do one little line like that in my module. Even cooler, we can do another thing as well, show you. Go and do another module on one of the other lines. Here. Put that groove here. And then rather than taking it to the very end, I'll just take it up till here, this one tile worth. And then I put another one. These are sort of fundamentals of or concept, the artistry of making modules. And there's lots of the stigma around starting from scratch, and what do you do and why do you do it, and one of the things that is very essential in design is respecting your choices. So I made a choice here earlier about square to make this tile, and then now I decided to accentuate this by doing a groove here and then another one there. I could do and here I'm going to return back with the L shape motif, and I have nothing in mind. I actually we're going to sort of design together in this stream and just like see where we go. But at least even here, the little principle is that I made one decision and then I made another decision that goes with that first decision that I made. So I accumulate the successful decisions on top of one another. Now, the good thing is that if I say, okay, what can we do with this? So I'll now exit that sculpture and do another. In fact, I want to, rather than this groove being not all the way, I'm going to go back and push it through the whole thing. So the light can come through and we can play with lights after as well. Something like that here. And that one, yeah, I'm going to do the same here as well. Because I saw actually in some of the reference how this is such a cool thing to play with in design. Now, as soon as you start copying this structure that I made, I'll do a corner piece, for example, and take this and do that. And you start having something interesting happening. Where? Let's go and extend the floor. That. So I start playing with my module. turning it around, sort of go to that groove here, to flip it, try to align them both. Intent is great, like, you know, you just try to say, okay, just we've made these holes, what can we do with them? And as I zoom in more, it gives me more tile sort of density, so I can really align things together. So again, sort of a cool thing. Let's go, and you can spend a whole afternoon just sort of aligning your what you've just done now, and see what kind of space that would create for you. But I'm going to sort of keep changing gear between different concepts and different. I like to call this session, or this session together, just architectural musings, and playing with the shadows and shapes and stuff that will come out of it. Again, I'd sort of do the same thing. It's very important actually to achieve success in a design is to not be scared to spend time with a design. You know, you don't just say, oh, on to the next thing, on to the next thing, because things get better as you sort of service them a bit. See, now we're starting, even with the simplest of shape, it's starting to become more meaningful. Look, these shadows are starting to give me ideas. Because a lot of what architecture is sort of a feeling of a space and what happens in it and how you travel from one point to another. You know, as soon as I put this, you know, you just don't feel, it doesn't feel right. You know, you just, it needs to align with the other one, or not align at all, but it doesn't need to be a sort of sad in between. That always leaves you with sort of unfinished business, and makes you sort of in a way unhappy from a design point of view, because you left something that hasn't reached any meaning, and that sort of stays with you. And if you accumulate a lot of that in a design session, you kind of find yourself unhappy. So I like, you know, to remain with a concept. So another thing that I think we showed in, see, now we can do a very dark floor, and I'm going to quickly touch on how we can do a very textured solution. So how am I going to do this? Yeah, I'll turn on the grid, do a collection of dark tones. I like to sort of even change the hue, even though I'm picking quite dark colors, but it never hurts to have variety again in the dark, like we did in the gray tones. Let's say something like that. Okay, cool. And then I will make my floor, and I'll change the material to a more rough or a shiny. Let's try this rough one or the shiny. See what it looks like. Right, and then sort of zoom and start doing some panels, floor panels. Make the grid quite coarse, small, I mean, finer. Want it even finer than the automatic one. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to make I'll turn, rather than turning the grid, I'm going to just rely on the upright here. And because I want to make a more irregular type tile, so I'm just gonna sort of go again to the singular stamp, just make some irregular shapes like this, and you'll see in a second. And I'll leave a groove gaps between my tiles. There. Another tile. I won't do a big one because you know, time. but the sometimes just getting as well the choice right of how big your module is for Dream. Do you do a tiny one that you kind of repeat a lot with the copying, or you do a more massive one that you repeat less and you don't see the patterns as well repeating too much? That's an art form in its own right, you know. But here I'm just going to make, let's say, something like that, a bit bigger maybe. And then in the middle I put like some smaller ones. There we go. It's nice to have, I find, in when we're playing with sort of architectural musings like that, to have uh, one material that is quite textured, so we can contrast it with the very plain. Right. So I made a bunch of black tiles like that, and then what I'll do is I'll raise it off the ground a little, like this, and I'll turn the grid back on and make a under. Okay. Pick the grout color, maybe a bit lighter. Something like that. I'll delete this. Go here. Gonna use this as my bounding. We can always hide everything. Ah, I know. I put it as a different sculpt. I want to put this in the same one. That's better. And then pull that. Cool. Then what I'm going to do, go back here. You can use in the sculpt tool, we've got it, the sculpt tool has got its own clone, right? So switching off the grid again, just clone a bit more of these black tiles. Just want to fill that cube now, so that becomes my irregular tile module. Okay, that'll do. Now I want to give it some more irregularity, so I will go in and pick that dark color again, or bunch of colors. One will do. Turn off the upright guide, and now just turn soft blend on. You know, you can just start making more. I'm just making it as if, like, you know, imagine it's like a mini mountains or something, like, just to, because I'll add and then I'll cut again. Like, just add the quick. And we're thinking, as you know, we move on in more further editions of the sculpt tools, to add kind of things that help you do effects like that faster. But I still like the using the sort of handmade to do everything. Still helps you create something quite bespoke, and it doesn't look algorithmic. It's it's a nice feeling in Dream. I've seen a lot of the community work, and it's really nice to see how everybody finds their own solutions to do their own textures and things. So I'm quickly sort of randomly soft blending some bits and pieces of extruded surface, and that will be used as our sort of textured stone wall, or textured material. And of course, you can really spend time in these things, uh, getting the silhouette and the relationship between the tiles just perfect. Even using the different looseness tools to make the gray grouting in the middle more loose. For example, I'll show you. You can get the loosening brush here, and you just sort of increase the looseness in the middle sections, gives it a nice sort of different material. And if you tweak that sculpture and play with the inner color, make it a bit darker. When I exit and you tweak the inner color over here, and we darken that a bit, like that, so you can see the looseness coming through more. So we can go to the looseness tool again, loosen, and you can get effects like that. So you can play within the sculpture a lot and get very interesting results. One of the things I like to do as well with after we did this extruded bit, I like to go back to the sculpt here, go to the cut tool, and then do some, pick a different tone of color, and do sort of cuts that run across a lot of the peaks like that. Gives a nice effect of texture again. So you add a lot of these extruded elements, and then you go on top of it and you sort of catch the several peaks and cut them with a different tone, and again it gives you a nice texture again. So a lot of these techniques here are basically how you can make your own texture, but via sculpting it rather than coloring or painting or wrapping it with a material. In the other tools, you have concepts like normal maps and bump maps and depth maps and all sorts of things that are they work together to give a certain result. I'm going to now make this, just for the purpose of time, to make it smaller, a little smaller. So I'll shave a bit of it, like here, and we just tile it. So I'm gonna pick this, like that. Here we go. Like from the other side, do another cut. Let's use this bit I sort of worked up a bit. Yeah. That, something like that. And see what we can do is that, again, doesn't look like much. I want to darken it as a whole, so give it a tint, or yeah. Cool. Okay, that's our texture surface, and then I'm going to make the grid less coarse, return it back to normal grid. Okay, style it a few times and see what have we created. Always like to the best test of any module is, you know, repeat and you'll be fine. You sort of take it this way, flip it, start getting an order. I think it needs as well, if I group these, make them very small like that, or small in comparison to the person. Even more, or something like that. So start getting a little bit more like a meaningful textured slatey type floor with a pattern inside it. Again, repeat. Even the unintended cut that I did starts becoming a pattern. As long as we stay with it, you know, because like I said earlier, any design, you know, you just start feeling like, yeah, I actually won't contradict what I just said. I want to hide this because I think it will be more effective with the black. Yeah, and then now we make more of our floor. So we got this texture floor, and then we just repeat this, take this piece here. I want the bit with the L here. So I just repeated my tile. And then we say, let's put some. Yeah, so we have a textured piece contrasting with a clean piece, and you start feeling, you know, you got the beginnings of a interesting architectural space. Very quickly, you change gear and you can start playing with lights and see what that does. So get a light here, and if I place, accentuate as well with the holes that we have. See what that gives us. Maybe we need to also darken the scene so I can make use of the actual artificial light. So get my sun gadget and darken. Where is the darken? It's in here. Yeah, something like that. And if you just, so a space like that with some of these lights coming from the outside starts getting effective, or more effective than before. And you'd never think, you know, what are we going to do with these little grooves? But as soon as you combine them with colored lights, you start getting an interesting looking space. And that's just with a bunch of cuts, and you get a modern interior space like that. So let's check it out with our character who move around, you know. So that, for example, is something that, or the beginning when you're starting to do a scene and you don't have anything in mind, and it's how to run with an idea. Here is one of the concepts. You just make a module and you stick with it, and in this particular case we did a module with grooves in it, a textured one, and then we see what we can do with pointing the spots and spotlights on it, and what can that give us in terms of a style and a space. And then that for example could be it for this family, and you just keep doing more of it and moving around with the character and going up levels and down levels, and sort of playing with the relationship between the lights and that whole big idea. I think another thing that can be quite nice in these things is big, for like just one more thing missing in this concept, I guess, or I think anyway, is big volumes, glowing volumes, like that could be, give it a science fiction edge. Let's, we'll just put a cube quick, and then you sort of glow it. This kind of thing, and go in. See, and this basically is your family that you can make a whole sort of design from. Light grooves, these cool grooves, but the grooves have to kind of be run in a system and order. One goes this way and then there, and then goes and climbs up and go. You don't want them to be a little bit off one another, and that plus lights plus a texture floor is one thing. Now, to move to our next concept, which is I saw today. Yeah, that's it. I love making mood boards and sheets and stuff from Pinterest. You go and you look at your favorite designers or architects, and you make a mood board from them, sort of remind you, and you just steal bits and pieces from that. This one here, I will show you, just like, when you start playing with the modularity in another way. So I'm going to do almost like a modular building block thing. So we turn the grid maybe, and then I will do my module. So, we have in our non-uniform scale, when we're in that state, if you press circle and twist, you get the whole, right? So the whole is very neat. And when we first did that back in the days, Anton used to say, if you just smear like that, you get interesting modules for free straight away. And I'm gonna do exactly that. But then I did my first smear in chaos, and then my second will be to sort of try to order it again. So I'll sort of put small little ones where I didn't put, just to close the. So you get like some nice design here that you didn't fluke, and then the other side I don't want it, so I will just cut it. So I go in and get the cut brush like this, and then just cut my. So it's cool that sometimes the mixture of, when we say sketchy and loose, it sometimes implies one beat, nobody does that. Nobody. Impressionism is not just like some madness with the brush, blah blah, blah, or Jackson Pollock, and there is a bit of that, but then you harness it straight away. If you look at Pollock, like, there's 3 ideas in one big painting, and he just keeps repeating them. Or Monet or somebody is just Monet is very, very detailed. He's trying to do exactly the scene that he's seeing in his garden, but he's just not trying to draw it in a classical way. But the information is detailed. So anyway, we did a scribble, then we filled in the blanks. Now, how can I make a whole apartment block concept with this? So I'll first scale it up a bit more with, I remember using my little person there and I'm just going to take one of those pieces just to sneakily use it as a floor. Why not? In this case, something like that. Pick these two, extend in that direction, flip. Here. And I'll try to also, in this apartment block thing, integrate some foliage as well to our green agricultural stuff in the middle. It's very, there's a whole trend in design or architecture that has integrated climbing plants and things. So just made a floor, and it's very, I think like floors are really essential because they just help your eye to work against it or with it, and then we can delete if we don't want it. So here's a module, and then what can I do is that, so straight away we kind of go into another direction. I'm going to now put bits that are extruding out of this sort of apartment. Even I'll make that bigger actually, this here, because if this is our little person here, that's the size. I'm thinking basically out loud now. So I have my person, and if this is a room or something, that's too small. So I'm going to make it something like that. And then now we start responding to it. I'm going to do another module that goes out in sort of white. And again, I'll use this. Okay, say I did just that. Now go and stretch it. In place. So you start. So now, for example, we have an idea. We want to put these sort of little thin extruded bits that fit into the holes, and before you move on, you want to examine the idea, see if it's a good one, and then start subverting it. So what I'll do, I'll go inside, clone, and turn on the grid again, or even this precise move, and you start playing with that concept. So that's our new idea. We want to sort of start putting those or fitting these extruded elements inside the shell. And then sometimes what happens is a surprising thing, like but I think before you change beat, the essential biblical, a so important rule, I cannot tell you how much, but it's quite hard in a Twitch stream that you guys are watching me and I need to do something cool and stuff. So the tendency to want to go, okay, next thing is very high. But the only hope for any idea to triumph is staying with it, and seeing if it's a good one, it will give us. If it's not, it's not. But there's only one way to find out, is to stay with it. Now I'm getting a lot of new other ideas. Like I want to variate, for example, how much in and out they are. So I start sort of going, yeah, that's fine, that's kind of cool. Let's see what that does. And then I carry on again, like, just so I got a sub idea, and then I did it, and then I went back to the main one. I have another idea that's in my head, but I'm resisting, which is I want to rotate the modules out of the shape. Like, I'll show you in a second what I mean. So I want to do that. I go inside one of them and then turn off this, and I want to do sort of this. It's just some part of me wants to do that, but I'm not gonna let it take control, because sometimes there is it's not its time yet, to still we need to stay with this one for a tiny bit more. Also, color is begging to arrive. Where is the guy? Just to remind me of the scale. Yeah, like that. So basically, in this apartment building or in this module, what could be nice is introduction of a strong color as well. Where is it? So go back into the precise move. Grid now when you're stamping. Because precise move works when you're moving stuff around, but when you're actually stamping, you need the grid. So maybe a sort of crazy modern style purple like that, and sort of, but in block. And I'm going to turn the texture, but with the tight corner, and place that like here. But in this case, it's going to be, it will fill a whole area. Turn on this. So I'm still respecting my first grid, even though sort of playing, even the fact that it's not. I'll go in the other way as well. And now that I've done that once, I sort of want to do it again, because so we have something, by the way, that I don't know if you noticed in if I turn the precise move on, and I want to extrude all these things to be flush with each other, you can do that. You do this, and then if I press triangle on the other if I do that, and then I just go, it's very sensitive. Here it is. Where is it? Let me see if I can make it even. Here we go. Yeah, it's actually not the best case to demo it, and it's because my shapes are quite thin, so I'll show it to you when I have a better example. But I'm just gonna do it by eye, extrude from the other side, because that will help us later on when I'm sort of repeat using this. Okay. Right. And then I want to do, like, let's say this is like an extruded colorful apartment, and then we go inside it and make a balcony. Now, to do the balcony, I will still use these elements. Where are we? So go stamp, tools, clone, take this thing again, turn on the precise, yep, like that. And I'm going to extrude here. So now I'm sort of mixing, sort of picking the bit from the last idea, trying to make it gel with the other one. Take this, cut. I want to cut that. I still have the looseness on, so I don't want this. Uniform, yeah. Cool. So I'm making a groove. Now, that's a nice happy accident. For example, what I intended, I wanted to do this cut and go all the way, but then I quite like this shape for some reason, so I'll leave it for a second. And then I'll just go all here. There we go. Again, I didn't have that in mind, but it's cool, so I'll leave it. A little step won't hurt. And then, cool. So that's like, our balcony detail. Actually, so see, so something I straight away don't like is the thickness here and thickness here, and this is not the same. So this thickness needs to match these. Just aesthetically unpleasing. So I do that, and it's cooler straight away. It just looks like this is going like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like no fuss. And actually this little thing is not desired. Kill it. Okay, and then extrude to the back. Nice. So that's like, the balcony detail in this sort of what's going on in the back. I'll extrude it all the way. Fine. And then this one here as well, I want to take it. I want to close it now with a detail because, people will die if that is their balcony. So we'll do some, again, this, see, here's something now starting to appear, some form of system. I'll take that purple again and reuse it. But in the same thickness of this, do that. And then extrude like this, a little sort of whatever you call them, yeah, cool. And then we'll repeat it a few times. So we'll go to the clone again, zoom, repeat like this. There you go. So we've got our balcony detail, nice and sort of funky. Inside here, I want to delete this bit that we still have from our old module. Now, I don't need to do these things for the purpose of the stream, but I really wanted to do a different thing this time in the stream. I wanted to actually almost take you in a journey of my particular thoughts and what do they sound like when you're working, just to kind of almost confirm or inspire. Sometimes if you're similar or if you're different, it's still useful. I think it's quite a different style of showing off Dream, really, where it's more about the process of design than the tools. And the tools just happen to be a byproduct of what we are doing. I want to do more of those as time goes by anyway, and we will always have nice new assets to share. And the collection that we released recently with Maya's fantastic Ancient Times are brilliant, and that will always keep expanding. And like I was saying, I'm doing a new one personally that will help, like this textured floor that I tried to do here real quick, a lot of that sort of thing that will be handy. Right, one more thing, and then I move to repeating that module. I think we need now the, what does it need? It needs Oh yeah, the green bit. So like the integrated gardens in these worlds. So to save time, I will go in here and sort of I'll take this piece again, put a bit beside us, and then okay. And try to match the same proportion of the other side. How is it doing that? Oh, because I cloned it. And I don't like it. Oh, no. Undo, undo. I'll do something else. I will actually just take one of the boxes. Oh, I know. Actually, that's fine. I want another color just before we tile it, and then so one of the ideas you can do is what goes with purple, a sort of very strong crazy green like that matches with purple. You know, you'd never use that green easily, but it kind of works with purple. So we'll I want to close some of these openings. It's the same, maybe with the same idea here, the sort of smaller grid. Where is it? There we go. Maybe like that this time. A touch like that, that's nice. So basically we copy that. You see, and that's the kind of thing that I feel that, you know, you imagine if this whole thing is just but playing with cylinders or hexagons. You get completely another playful sort of thing going on. Uh, so you know, these are, oh no, this is the small one. What we could do, for example, is we make there we go. Right. And then we can imagine that inside the houses are lights, so I'll put them in later actually, because I can't glow the whole thing. Right. So there you go. And now for the flower boxes or the green, we can do another shape. So the ones without the green could have the foliage, and the ones with the green are the habitable ones. And you know, you can have a third color in the mix. But anyway, like that will do because of I forget the time and every single time. But we go now into city mode. Oh, we've got to, okay, that's cool. So make a bit. Okay, right. We group these two bits together. Make it a bit smaller again. And then we start playing with it. So I'll get the grid. We've made a module. I'm going to also, before I repeat with it, I'll go to my paint tool, right? And go to the paint tool, remember the paint tool, and we go in it, no time, but what we can do. And that's the beauty of impressionistic tools, even with a tight architectural thing like what we're doing this time. So I'll go to this stamp one and cluster it. You remember, if you turn the scatter, it gives you a bit of a blob or a cloud like that. And then if I pick another size, pick that one, if I sort of put inside this, no, 1 second. The flowers need breathing, so turn on the grid again, 1 second. And then, so kind of like the balcony, but another. But this time, just so we can be different from the balconies, we'll make them thin like that. In fact, you can even do so much you can do. I can't help. And so little time. Here we go. The idea that I had, I quite liked. I liked seeing, like I was meaning to cut this, but then when I saw it, I was like, oh, you can do sort of strips in that axis, and the plants kind of come through it, and that would be nice as well, looking. The whole idea of design is relationships between one thing and the other, and something that wasn't meant to be an order, and then it became an order. So anyway, here is our plant box. So the plant box look like this U shape, let's say, and then turn off the grid again, go back to the paint tool. And now we make a color scheme for the plants. So I'm going to pick some of these greenish colors here and mix in a bit of orange, because orange suits purple and green as well in a sort of naturalistic way. Let's say, there you go. That's our cluster. Pick where is it? Yeah. And then go to this tool again, make a cluster like that. I can also go to this one. I'll just change a bunch of different ones. Maybe I want a bit stronger green. I'll save this, do another one. I want more. This is grassy one. There's a, so yes. So little person. See, I started to struggle with what was happening there. Is like I was starting to lose scale. Like, what is the scale of this place? See, our little person is many. So I noticed straight away that something was not working. So I just scale this back to our person, because the foliage, even if you just scribble it, needs to have some feeling of sense. So this is our little person. Where is it gone? Oh, up there. I don't know why I made it like super big in the first place. Felt like the right thing then, but not now. So there we go. So that's kind of better. You know, it's all mix of. And now I'll go back in here and take one of these. I want to color it, recolor it. Where's our paint? Take the paint. Okay, that's better. I don't like this color scheme. After all this, I oversold it. That's the thing. If you ever oversell something, the cosmos punishes you. Now, I think it needs just a simpler solution. Let's try again. Okay, let's do that. And then another attempt. Let's go. Explode. Okay, change. You know, the sort of modern architecture that has these kind of jungles in the middle, or flora or plant climbing across. It's very trendy now in architecture. It's very cool as well. It's beautiful for all the right reasons and integrates the organic with the geometric. Okay, that's better. It's more convincing. Right, so that's our thing. We cluster them together. 1, 2, 3, and why? Here, 1. Oh, fine. It's already grouped somehow. I'm sure I didn't group it. Maybe I built it inside the group. There you go. So now we've got our module. Let's repeat it a few times and see what happens. And, you know, I can allow myself now to be more playful. So you can start going, you know, you recess back. You go, okay, what do we do in this bit we didn't design a lot for at the moment? For the purpose of this, I'm just gonna sort of cheat. See what we have in the back. This work. Ah, look at that. Now I can basically, I'll go here. I'll tunnel back, make a copy, and delete these elements. Yeah, I'll just use the gray bit. The gray bit will be handy for the horizontal. This looks like some sort of compound in, you know, modern London or something. But, and then we just work it with it. So if I did the 45-degree, I sort of carry on with it. That here is not nice, for example, so lose it. It's always nice to resolve these problematic areas where things meet. That is the holy grail of difficulty in design, like, you know, and there is no easy answer to what. So I sort of had to move this out of the way. Then I'm gonna try things out. What about that? Cool. And then, and see, we've got a module now. We slaved a bit on the module because the more successful the module and the more thinking that it contains, you know, and we were trying to sort of pretend that there is, you know, a house and try to get the scale nice of the human beings living in there and stuff. And then even though I didn't do the full extent of that, but it's a glimpse of what that kind of vibe sounds like. If we had more time, we'd go inside the house and go, okay, this is a balcony, so what's going on here? And no, we need more rooms. And if I built inwards and made it make sense from the inside, and then started copying again what I'm doing now, it would look even more convincing. So this is kind of a fake one, like, the sort of westerns when you have only the front of the house and then in the back is just the studio. So this is kind of the equivalent of that for a modular architectural cluster. But see, just because we spent some time thinking about the color scheme, the detail of the balcony and the detail of the plant pot and that sort of thing, we end up with something that is more convincing than if I was too rushed in to just stamping a bunch of cubes and hoping for the best kind of thing. How are we doing, Tom?
We should start wrapping up.
Okay, wrapping up. So here we go. We got our cluster. This kind of style of architecture now is very, very much the future of housing, and because you can have modules and you can play with them. And if we basically get our first, and you can integrate with it like something like texture as well, so it's not too plastic. And you find, like, a lot of times they have in the middle of these buildings, one of the panels is very textured. That can be mixed in as well. These sort of forms really respond well to funky lighting. So like the last thing we can do, start placing lights inside of our houses. Or actually, fast way of doing it is using I love the glow, because even though the glow is not as nice as the lights in the algorithm of the lights cast shadows and they're very fancy, the glow you can do shapes as well. So it doubles up as a bit of a building with light kind of thing. But you can mix and match. You can get some normal lights, stick them inside the building, because they sort of pick up and give nice effects like that. And they cast shadow on the other bits and stuff. Yeah. And then we get also, where is it? Like this thing. You put it inside some of the places. I'm just gonna go fast now so we can get effect quick. Turn off the light. And then you start adding more these. So if you were to do this kind of modular city at night, you
it looks amazing.
Put your lights inside, and you mix them glowing cubes with the real lights like that to show as if this is casting light on and not just a glowing cube thing. So that kind of gives you the illusion. So there you go, a bunch of architectural musings, the thought, the process. Today I wanted really to just linger on relationship between a choice and another choice and what that feels like. Because sometimes, of course, next times and things I will, like we said, to have more modules. When you spend your time having the nice floors and the nice walls and the nice textures, it all helps because it adds up. It's high res and high detail. But it doesn't help you find a good relationship between them all. So in a way, today was more about relationships, colors, sticking with a concept, taking it to a place which makes sense, and then moving to another one. And we'll do a lot more of these because it's hard to cram in everything ever. I want to do sort of interiors, details as well, inside houses, inside a fortress, more fantastical stuff if we're doing something like sci-fi or alien or more video game oriented. Today was kind of more raw geometry and architecture.
That's awesome. Well done.
Cool.
Let's save it because we just want to remind people about saving their things as dreams.
Oh yes, sir. Yeah.
So shall I? What do you want to call it? What should we call it? I'll use the DualShock for this.
Yeah. Call it maybe just modules or architectural modules.
Okay, cool. Let's have a.
I can't spell at all.
No,
Are you good at
those are the
spelling?
two words. No. For someone who does social media, I should probably be better.
Thank God, it does.
Helps, doesn't it?
Does help.
Architectural.
Rural.
Oh my goodness. Architectural. That's wrong, isn't it?
The hardest word to spell is necessary.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I can't even
It's-
say.
yeah.
URAL.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Tom.
And I promise that I always try and get my spelling right on Twitter, but I obviously have more time. I'm spelling under pressure right now. Architectural and
Architectural musings. Call it
musings. Oh, nice. I like
Nice,
that.
yes,
Yeah.
Because I genuinely had no plan whatsoever today. So it's musings.
That's a good way of booking.
Yeah.
I hope no one's judging me on my spelling. Okay, someone says well done, Tom, which is Thank you for coming in right there.
And then to publish, what do we do?
Cool. So to make it into a dream. So this comes from people entering the community jam. Everyone that's saving their stuff as like single scenes and elements. If you have it as a dream, you can publish it and appear in dream surfing. Which would mean that there
It's
are
a big deal. It's like dream surfing is where everybody goes to just be entertained in dream. And if you made a creation, that gives it much better.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sure.
So we head to you go to like create start fresh, and then you can dreams at the end.
Yeah.
Search, and then all you need to do is pop your creation in there, and then save that, and we'll call that right. Shall I try this again?
Yeah.
Take off the E, add in the TURAL. I did it.
That's it, yeah.
Yes.
You did it.
Thank you. That's the most never mind your amazing sculpting. My spelling. That's why. We'll have a Tom spelling stream. That'd be great, wouldn't it? And then that's ready to release into the world. So yeah, if you're entering.
And that would appear in dream shaping now.
Yeah, once we Oh my goodness, where are we going?
Yeah.
There we go. There
you go.
and we can release that. So people can use that in their creations if they want to.
Yeah. Please.
There we go.
And make your own, like the same way that I played with the cube and the outline borders and that. You can do the exact same thing with hexagons. You can do the exact same thing with cylinders and get a very different look, and then mix the cube with the cylinder and get another, so there is so much expansion with that small piece of rhythm in design.
Cool. Well, thank you, Kareem, and thank you everyone for watching. And you mentioned at the beginning you're working on your sort of collection.
Yeah, I'm doing like
Other bits and pieces.
my architectural collection that hopefully at some point it will be ready, and then we'll release it so we can make worlds like that, but with lots of different beats and tones in the materials.
Awesome. That'd be very nice. Cool. Right. Thank you everyone for watching. We will be back on Thursday with Community Creations. Next Tuesday, we aren't going to have an Jam stream, which is sad, but that's because there's a bunch of us over at Develop.
Oh, good.
Because I think you guys have a panel, and then we're a few molecules are up for awards. So no Tuesday stream next week.
I think I'm doing a talk as well there and Develop about the making of the dream tools.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, if you're at Develop, come and see that. And also if you see any molecules, give us a wave.
Cool.
And so yeah, there'll only be a Thursday stream next week. We'll remind you, so don't worry. So thank you for watching, and yes, see you on Thursday. Bye, everybody.
Bye.